I never felt so understood as the moment where an artist by the name of Earl Sweatshirt said, "Too black for the white kids and too white for the black." Most of my young life, I felt like exactly that. Being a black kid thrown into quote unquote black environments and feeling that I didn't necessarily fit in because there were aspects of my personality, who I truly was, before I put on the mask, that were considered as quote unquote white. And then I would, try to go to the other side, but, you know, still being seen as a black kid. And much of this was honestly in my own head, especially when it came to, well, I'm a black kid amongst white kids. So I really felt like, well, I don't necessarily belong to either of these sides. And especially when I then ended up going to a private Catholic school for high school, where I was one of the few black kids. But by that point in time, I was so given over to, this image of what it meant to be black, the equivalent of Will Smith stepping onto Bel Air's campus, right? I stood out like a sore thumb. And honestly, I kind of liked the attention that came from it, because now I was more defined. Though I was around the white kids, they almost saw me as exactly what I wanted to be perceived as in order to be accepted, which is, well, he's a black guy. He's cool, right? The token, as some may say in some circles. And the reason I bring this up is because I saw a video of a young man who, I'm going to first say, his father did an incredible job. LeVar Ball is he's a stand-up father. No matter what you may think about him personally and his antics and, his brashness or whatever it is, when it's all said and done, he raised 3 boys who he predicted would become superstars. Not just predicted, but he put the work in to make sure that they became superstars. Now, he was obviously focused on basketball and ended up having 2 of them who are, excellent basketball players. One who's an okay basketball player, ended up in the NBA, I think, for maybe a season or 2, but has now broken through in the music industry with, a smash hit record that sounds like it's straight out of 2002, Lil Wayne and the Hot Boys in their last little run. And, he's basically making a way for himself, becoming a quote unquote superstar within rap. However, the reason why this caught my attention is because it reminded me of myself when I was young. And it's crazy to even say that. Like, a lot of these NBA players are now younger than me, which that, if you really want to know how fast time is moving and how you are really aging, look at the athletes like by age, right? The oldest athlete in the NBA is 40 years old. Now, to me as a 29-year-old, that's like, okay, there's quite some time to go until 40, but I'm a blink and be 40. But when I look back, a lot of these guys are 22, 23. I think MJ was like 27, 26 when he won his first championship and all of a sudden was on a three-peat. Like, I am getting older, but that's not the point of this. Point is, this young man is now creating a image for himself that is not rooted in reality. Because you see, Pops raised these boys in a place called Chino Hills, which is, I believe, one of the best schools in the West Coast, if not in the United States. A private school, a basketball or sports sort of academy in a very nice part of Los Angeles, right? Like, when somebody says LA, it could mean 2 completely different universes. Again, growing up in Cali, I know. Somebody can say Palo Alto, and it's like, did you grow up in Palo Alto or Pali? Like, that's 2 different places. Did you grow up in LA or did you grow up in LA? This young man, Jello is what he goes by, happened to be raised in a very nice part of Los Angeles. Essentially, the boys had some money, right? And that's a beautiful thing. You wish to be able to create that sort of life for your children. And, that's a blessing, if anything else. Unfortunately, for some of us, we had a complex about not fitting in. So therefore, maybe having 2 parents in the household seemed to be more of a stain on your quote unquote reputation than it was a blessing, like you finally see it is as an adult with a functioning brain. Right? But when you're at younger stages in your life, you want to be hood, you want to be thug, you want to be street, you want to be whatever it is. Like, I remember an episode of their quote unquote reality show where the youngest son, who I think is the best baller, Lonzo, where, they have their own basketball brand of shoe, whatever, and it's triple B, BBB, big baller brand. And the low one basically says big booty, just, and his pops essentially slaps him upside the head and is like, hey, he checks him for that. And in that moment, I was thinking he's checking him because it's inappropriate, but then I also realized he's checking him because, like, that's not how we get down. That's not who you actually are. Like, cut that out, right? And I can only imagine how many behind the scenes conversations were had to be like, you don't have to be anything that you're not. Like, you've got the opportunity, you got the privilege, take advantage of it, period. But now we have the middle brother. It's always the damn middle brother out here on stage talking about the street activities that he is engaged in, right? How he has ops and all kinds of stuff. Now, I can't play the song. I'm just going to show y'all the imagery of it. But all I needed to see was just what I saw to say, this looks like your stereotypical gangster rapper or drill rapper, whatever the hell else these kids are listening to now in that side of quote unquote rap music. It looks like the stereotype. And so I thought to myself, man, this is exactly what I'm talking about when I speak of the subject of this, pressure to act a certain way when you are black, to be a certain way when you are quote unquote of color. Like there's an expectation for you to not quote unquote subscribe to what some call whiteness, which when you start to really unpack is nothing more than the positive aspects. Like, being raised by two parents is sometimes seen as whiteness, which is a crazy statement. And it's very heartbreaking and telling to say that, wait, so having a functional, stable household is a white thing? That's not a flex on the other side. That's actually an admission of failure. That's heartbreaking. That should not be normalized, but unfortunately has been. If you're not a thug or a gangster or something of that nature, then essentially you are seen as white. You're listen to Garfunkel, listen to Hall & Oates, listen to what's it called, Fleetwood Mac. Oh, I love Alanis Morissette. Man, that's that white stuff. You can't just be an individual. You have to fit into this specific genre. There's there's one box for you, and that's all that matters. And that's what creates a Jello. Now, Jello's creating, I know it's a crazy ass name, but that's his name. It is crazy that Jello feels the need to have to be a thugged out rapper when he really grew up in the suburb of suburbs and was raised by a father and a mother who cared about him and who were active in his life, who did not pressure him to go out there and trap and do this, do that. Maybe he done sold maybe he sold a dub sack back in high school or something like that. I know he was over in China stealing glasses. That happened one time. And I believe either Trump or somebody had to pardon this dude, right? He was in China stealing glasses. That really did happen. That's the extent of his rap sheet. You can obviously tell there was a complex there. He did not have to steal them damn glasses. Somebody had the money to get those glasses. This family was already a well-known family, already making a significant amount of money. I think the oldest brother was already in the league. You understand me? But yet there was this need, this compulsion to be something that he really is not. Even if you look at from the youngest brother and, the spouses and the girls that they chose to be with, these IG looking models. These aren't women that look like their mother, that are maternal per se. These are the IG Tatianas. These are the type of individuals that they chose to be with. Am I judging them? Maybe a little bit. But my judgment comes from a place of why do they choose this? Why sometimes do they speak in a certain way when they didn't grow up around that lingo? Oh, I get that. It's for the same reason that when I was in 5th, 6th grade, I felt the need to change up my lingo and to start speaking a certain way in order to be acceptable in certain circles. In order for me to be cool, I needed to rid myself of, theater and acting and the things that I love to do, the creative, quirky side of me, the drawing and the storytelling. I need to get rid of the philosopher. All those aspects of me needed to be parked on the side. Too black for the white kids and too white for the black. That's what this is right here. And we see it all the time. It is almost especially with the lighter skin or the, mixed kids. There's a whole identity thing I will never understand, right? Father is a black man, mother is a white woman. I never will understand that experience. I don't know what it's like. And if those of y'all who have this story, continue to tell that story because it is a necessary perspective, right? I will never understand that, but I have noticed that either the one white boy in the group of brothers or whatever it is, or black dudes, like in my circle, the dude who was always the most active, the dude who was doing the most all the time was the one white boy. The one white boy in my main circle was the one dude who always got himself in the most trouble, always getting arrested, breaking and entering into this place, stealing from this place, getting stopped at the damn, what was it? At the damn Target, stealing drink in the Target. He got caught up. Now he's been held up by the damn guards and then police are coming. Like, he was always in a new situation. Always. He's the one who introduced me to the loud pack. Always with something to prove. So I understand that. I'm well aware of that. Somebody tried to say like I'm half a Native American or something like that. They were trying to, they say, oh, he's red. You ain't black, you red. I'm like, first and foremost, I guess with this lighting, I'm red, right? But as far as I've known, I've been called black and things of that nature, at least in the United States. When I go abroad, you know, people have a little more of an expansive mind. They just say, oh, you're an American. That's all they call me, American. They don't look at, oh, black American, African, none of that. They just say American. But my experience has been that when I look to express myself in the most authentic way, I felt rejection. And I cared so much to people please and to be liked. And, you know, the old thing that we're all taught, that having friends and more friends makes you a somebody. And if you don't, there's something wrong with you. So I always aspired towards making people like me and having people want to be around me. Then it became rebellion and wanting to be cool and wanting to be the one who stands out. And so I gravitated towards the most dysfunctional behaviors. And thankfully, I had the foundation of a two-parent household, of two parents who were genuinely doing their best to raise me. No parent is perfect, but they did their best, to where at least I had a foundation to go back to when I finally got back to my right mind. But during that time, I was jello. Not like that. Pause. But I was, I was the middle child in the ball family. Instead of balling this way, I wanted to ball this way. So I'm really curious to see where this goes if he continues the persona, because people are calling it out, as they should, rightfully so. This, brother, this ain't you. This is not you. It's okay. You're a grown man at this point. You got a whole kid. You got a woman out. Well, I believe he left his girl, who was actually a down chick, who was really with him, really wanted to be wifey, was not leeching off him, have her own money and stuff like that. He left her for another woman, a quote unquote younger woman or whatever it was. Typical rapper activities. He left her while she was pregnant. Living up to the very stereotype. And again, I don't know what traumas took place in that house. I don't know what was the real dynamics behind the screens, but I do know that this is a mask. This is a facade. This isn't who you were raised to be. And it's okay to be who you are. You don't need to be black enough for the black or white enough for the white. You just be yourself. And the people who will gravitate towards you are those who are also being themselves, who are not confined by these limiting beliefs and these are limiting beliefs. They are. To say I'm black, therefore I'm this. It's to say I'm supposed to be boom, boom. I'm supposed to be, poor, struggling. I'm facing oppression. Those are destructive beliefs. For me, I say I happen to have melanin, right? I'm a melanated man. Some can call me black. Some can call me African American. You can call me whatever. You can call me 10 ways till Tuesday. It doesn't change the fact that I am who I define myself to be. Simple as that. I define myself. You're not going to give me an identity anymore. And that's the freedom that comes from knowing who you truly are, as opposed to trying to leech onto or to essentially attach yourself to an identity that was given to you by individuals who want to make it easier for them to box you in. So Jello, you ain't got to do all that. The music is slapping. The 2002 records are hitting. The nostalgia is nostalging, but that ain't it. I appreciate you guys for tuning in. Make sure to subscribe to the channel if you found value in this content. If you want to show some love or some support, you can go ahead and send a Cash App or go ahead and buy me a coffee by clicking the link below, literally titled Buy Me a Coffee. Till the next time, peace.
I fell in love with the sunshine. I fell in love with the light. I fell in love with the full moon.